Hello, I'm Tabitha Muthoni and welcome to On the Farms of Africa. This is a show that brings you various tech farming methods, trending and emerging agribusinesses in Africa. This week, we focus on the youth practice in farming with the look into Oscar Kasirimo's story, a communications graduate come farmer. Later, we talk to an expert on youth matters and farming. In this modern day, farming is turning out to be a rather lucrative business for the youth. And here at Matanda Farmers Produce, Oscar Kasirimo is just but a living proof. Here is his story.
I'm a graduate from the Multimedia University of Kenya with a degree in Bachelor of Applied Communication. I came back home. I've been applying for jobs in this company, in the county government, but maybe unfortunately or there's no job. I sat down with my dad and we decided to do farming because we had the resources, we had the land, we had water. So we just decided and we kickstart it and here we are. And actually I started it like a year ago and I'm liking it.
Once livestock herders, the pastoralist community is finally settling down and adopting farming as means of livelihood. Here in Ketengela, Kajiado County, Oscar is tending to his cabbages and onions as the main crops he has strongly focused on, as well as done pretty well besides the introduction of tomatoes, maize and kales on his farm.
First of all, you have to prepare the beds for planting. You have to raise them to prepare the roads, the small channels for passing when you're weeding and planting. You lay down the drips so that you can release the water for planting. These drips are like 15 centimeters apart, so you have to measure the distance. Like if it's 15 centimeters apart, you have to skip like one hole. You plant in the next hole. First of all, you release water so that the soil can take the water, so that when you just insert that stick like this, you plant the seedling inside there. Then you add a little fertilizer so that it can help it to grow well. As we buy seedlings, ready prepared seedlings from the so-called plant raisers. So they raise seedlings, so we go and buy because they are convenient, they are treated. So when you plant them, you have a guarantee of harvesting. Rather than planting up a nursery, it becomes really hard. Here we have this type of Copenhagen, and we like it because it's prone to this kind of weather. And they are very tough, they are prone from diseases, they don't get affected by diseases or pests easily, and they mature very fast. 3 months, you have your cabbages ready for harvesting.
For better yields, information on how to go about farming has come in handy for Oscar.
We always get an expert from the county government. They really assist us. After we plant, they come and they give us the procedures of applying fertilizer. They give us a timetable. Like they tell us to spray in between 7 days. If we spray today, we wait for another 7 days, we spray again. They really assist us with pesticide. They send us to stores of the county government, get them in discount. Fertilizer also, we get them in discount from the county government. We do weeding after every 2 weeks. There's a lot of weed in this farm because we use a lot of manure. The natural manure, it contains a lot of weed. We get our manure from home because we have our own cattle and sheep, so they produce the manure.
The weather here is hot, and considering most of the place is semi-arid, infestation of pests and wild animals on the cabbages is a common headache for most of the farmers in this region.
The challenge is, you can say, is the pest. Pests and diseases of these cabbages. Pests do well in this kind of hot weather. They really affect us, and the wild animals, like you say, the rabbit, they really eat our cabbages. And you know, containing a rabbit is very hard because they come during the night and they are very clever, as they say. Our source of water, we have a borehole. We drill our borehole in our farm down. We have a borehole there, so we pump water using electricity, which is quite expensive. Let me say electricity is quite expensive. And we are thinking about using this natural source of electricity, like the sun. So we want to install our solar panels. I think that will do really, because electricity is quite expensive here in Kenya.
The borehole's water is salty, and this means no good to the crops as the salty water crystallizes and clogs the drip lines. But Oscar has developed a way of purifying it by using phosphoric acid mixed into the salty water to decrystallize the salt.
Cabbages we sell per head. We call them heads, and we produce big cabbages. So per head, we sell it according to the size of the cabbage. If it's big, the bigger price. If it's small, we sell it the small price.
Onions are a savory ingredient when it comes to cooking, and Oscar has not left this one out from his interests.
With onions, we plant our own nursery. We don't buy seedlings for onions. We plant our own nursery, which takes 1 month for the seedling to germinate until planting. We use our own nursery. We have our own nursery, so we plant. After 1 month, we do the transplanting. First thing you have to prepare is the bed. You lay down the drips. We make the beds. And then we lay the drips down, and then we open water first so that the soil can soak. And then now we start planting. Okay, you take a seedling when it's still young, a seedling like this. You take it, you transplant from the nursery, you bring it here. When the soil is soaked, we drill some rows like this along the drip line, like this. So when we draw these lines, we place fertilizer. We put fertilizer along the rows, the DAP fertilizer. As it soaks, you transplant. You use your stick. You make a hole like this. You put a seedling inside there. Just a small distance. We measure with our own hands like this. So one seedling here, you measure your finger like this. You put like this another seedling. We have 2 varieties, red coach and the Neptune, but we prefer red coach because of the shape of the onion. The bulb maturity is quite fast, 3 to 4 months, and the color of the bulb. People really like it because red coach bring out the red color, so people like it, and that's why we prefer red coach. Challenges in onions, pest and diseases. Pests really do well in this hot weather.
The markets for his produce are viable locally as well as on social media platforms.
When we started, we used to sell in this local area. Our local area was our first market before we started going to towns. And then when we proceeded and we increased our farm and we increased our plantation, we now went to Kitengela market. After Kitengela market, now we are in Athi River. In Athi River market, those 2 markets are our biggest for now, but we are planning on going far. No, we are digital as a youth. Currently, you can get me on Facebook. That's the only platform right now I'm using. Facebook, Oscar Kasirimo, or you can search Matanda Farm and Products on Facebook.
When asked on anything else he has to say,
I would like people to really respect farmers.
And this one really comes in handy.
As in, when you come to a farmer to buy, just take whatever the price is telling you, because it is really intensive. When it comes to farming, remember you have to pay the workers, you have to buy the seedlings, you have to pay electricity bill for water. So it's really a lot of work for a farmer.
The animals for now are kept for meat and manure, but Oscar would like to do mixed farming as he picks up in the business, which has had a positive value financially in his life.
Farming has really changed my life. It has really made me know that you can do something despite of all your education, despite of what people want you to do or what you wanted to do in life. There's always something different in you. First of all, in me, there was no agriculture. I didn't do agriculture in high school, but when you want to do something, you just put your mind and your energy in it. Boom, yeah, you'll do a lot of farming. Actually, if jobs come up, I have to weigh the benefits of the new job and farming. If this new job can make me finance my farming, I'll go for the job, but I'll still be doing my own because now I have experience. So if this job will enable me to do my farming, I'll take the job. But if I see this job that it won't benefit me that much and it will make me lose my farming, I'd better do my farming. My advice to the youth is they should do farming. I can advise people to do farming, a lot of farming, because farm products, they will always have a market. They will always, no matter how the prices, but farm products will always have a market and people will support you. Once you do farming, people will support you, the government will support you. The county government, now that the government is so close to the people, they will support you with the experts, seedlings. It really pays. When the market is good, you will get paid well and you will get your rewards. As a youth, you should do farming. We need to feed this country. You know, it's a drought country, so when you are farming, you feed the country. In future, I want to expand my farm, cooperate with the new technology. I want to start greenhouse farming, which is, I went to some seminars and we have been taught about greenhouse farming, and I think it's the best way to do farming in future because of the weather, pest control. I want now to supply my products in the whole country. I want to go to Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu. I want to do dairy, I want to do all kind of farming, agricultural farming.
Agribusiness is primarily the backbone of Kenya's economy, and making agriculture attractive to the youth by enhancing valuable financial business models is a sure way of having the economy afloat. We take a short break right now, but we'll be back with more. Welcome back. You're watching On the Farms of Africa. On our one-on-one interview, we talked to Mr. Tim Jiguna, the founder of Affordable Greenhouse Limited. But first, here's a look at his profile. Tim Jiguna holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and a master's in science in information systems from the University of Phoenix. Tim is a certified project manager and holds a certificate in agribusiness management. He has over 15 years of experience working with multinational and local organizations. He's also responsible for the day-to-day running of the organization, corporate change, and business development. Mr. Tim Jiguna, nice to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Tabitha.
So how have you been?
I've been well. Yourself?
I've been great, thank you.
Excellent.
All right, so this week you're going to talk about youth and farming, or rather the youth practice in farming.
Okay.
All right, first things first. Where does it all start? What do I need as a youth to start farming?
I think the first thing, Tabitha, that any youth will need to get into farming is passion.
Wow.
You know, and that is something you cannot teach. So that is something that, you know, if you value where your food comes from, then for sure you can get started. Of course, one of the other critical aspects of farming is that you must have access to some land. You can start with a very small section. You know, if you're working on your mother's land, or, you know, or maybe a relative's parcel of land, then you can definitely get started. Of course, the land needs to be arable. I know that in this country we have a good percentage of our land that is not arable. So it needs to be, you know, sio shamba mawe. Yes, but other than that, everything else can be added. You know, water you can bring, you know, manure you can bring. I would say, in very simple terms, you need to have the passion, and of course, some access to some land, and you can get started.
How about finances?
You know, that particular subject always puts off a lot of youth, but I would say that with a very, very small amount of money, you can get started, because really, if you have taken care of the land issue, then the rest of it, you're talking about seed. You're talking about just, you know, maybe some basic manure to get started. So, and there I'm talking about at the very elementary level. Of course, as you grow in farming and you want to become more of a business farmer, then for sure, you know, that issue of capital will come in.
Let's look at how to empower the youth. What can we come up with that will attract the youth to get into farming?
There are a couple of things, Tabitha, that are of concern when you talk about inspiring the youth to become more interested in farming. Number one, I'm yet to meet a mother that tells their kid, work hard in school so you can become a great farmer, which is rather unfortunate because the one thing that all of us do every single day is eat. So this food is coming from somewhere. So I would say that it needs to start from the basics, that even as parents, as teachers, we need to teach the children the value of farming. And once we have that, then it also inspires them, to look at farming as not something you do when you fail. Because for a lot of people, they look at farmers in the village and they say, that's what you do when you don't succeed in life, which is a really pathetic view, of this whole thing. That needs to be carried by, the parents and the teachers. Secondly, we talk about programs that have been instituted by government, which are great, where the youth are getting some form of funding, to get them into agribusiness. There are programs which are out there. I think the unfortunate thing is that the dissemination of this information is not as clear. Okay, so a lot of youth are out there loitering the streets or in the villages, but they do not know that they can access, some of these programs that can actually enable them to start farming. So the issue of information, I think from where I sit, I see that there are areas that the youth can benefit, but that information also needs to get to them so that they know that these programs do actually exist.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And I also think the county government has a big role to play.
It does. And in this era of devolution, we're talking about getting the government closer to the people. There are counties which have done a very good job of getting their youth empowered, so that the youth are able to organize themselves into groups, register those groups, so that they can also get some funding. Because of course, we've all been there where if you give a young man or a young girl 50,000, that might not end up at the farm. It might end up elsewhere. That's why the groups, the group concept is great because of accountability. So the youth also need to organize themselves. They need to take the initiative to organize themselves so that they can access this funding.
How about the challenges facing the youth and unemployed?
There are quite a number of challenges. That's for sure. I mean, I interact with youth all the time who the most common statement that you get from them is hakuna job, right? But those challenges can be addressed, and sometimes it's all about the attitude, because when you sit in the village, you have access to land, and then you're saying hakuna job because you haven't gotten that maybe that white collar job that you are aspiring to get, then that's a challenge of your own making. You need a mindset shift, so that you can start looking at what you have, work with what you have to get where you want. It doesn't mean that because you're farming, you cannot pursue other things. But if that's where you are, if that's where then start with what you have access to. If you have access to maybe your parents' land, and you can grow some sukuma wiki, and in 2 months you start selling those sukuma wiki, you start generating an income. Okay, potatoes, some maize, whatever it is, whether it's going to be, whether you can afford to buy one cow and raise it, maybe it starts to give you milk, or maybe buy a calf, raise it, and sell it when it matures. It's an income generating project. So it's all about the mindset and how you can solve those challenges. Of course, the other challenge that we cannot run away from is, in as much as we are saying that there are programs that are there to enable the youth, access to that information is a big challenge. Okay, there are youth in the urban centers who probably have a bit more access to that information, but a lot of the youth in the rural areas do not have access to that information. That's a challenge that I'll probably want to throw out especially to the county governments. Let's bring that information to the local mwananchi. And of course, the other challenge that I see, in as much as I'm saying, yes, you can start with what you have, there's a cost involved. So, buying seeds, buying fertilizers, just maybe the cost of pumping water if you're getting it from the river, or or harvesting the water from the rain. There are costs involved in that. You have to buy tanks, you have to maybe put petrol in a pump, you have to buy that pump, etc., etc. So there are costs involved, and for many youth that poses a barrier. So if that is something that maybe one can overcome, or at least the government can facilitate that in a more accessible manner, then it will make things a little bit easier, and it will make it easier for the youth to get more interested in farming.
Yeah, I agree. The government has a big role to play in that. And how do our youth access funds? Maybe loans from banks. How does that work?
I would say that loans from banks are almost a dream for most of the youth, because when you go to the bank, they'll say, "Do you have collateral? Do you have a title deed?" Obviously, most people between the ages of 18 and 30 probably do not have a title deed, so they have to rely either on their parents or maybe look at other avenues of raising the capital. And that's where now such programs like the Youth Fund come in handy, the Uwezo Fund and so on. Those do come in handy. There are also several NGOs that extend certain loans, maybe small loans, to this to these farmers or to these aspiring farmers. But they also need to see some kind of order. You cannot just give your money to somebody that is sitting in the house, and without showing some kind of method as to, some kind of initiative. So I want to challenge the youth. Get off the couch, go out and look for these opportunities. Okay, because unfortunately you have a lot of them who sit in the house because they, left Form 4, or they have even graduated from the university, and during the day they are watching telenovelas. Instead of going out to look for opportunities.
Farming, or rather agribusiness, is the backbone of our economy, or rather the Kenya's economy. So what growth opportunities do we see in the near future?
There are a lot of opportunities, and the way you know that there are a lot of opportunities is when you see all these investors from outside Africa looking at Africa as where they want to put their money. Okay, it's almost, we keep talking about the new scramble for Africa. Okay, that tells you that there's an opportunity. Maybe we who were born and brought up in this part of Africa have not seen those opportunities, but somebody looking at it from the outside is seeing an opportunity. So for sure, I would say very basic opportunities that exist. Value addition. I know a lot of the youngsters will probably not want to go and be the ones to plant the oranges and the mangoes, or to prune them and so on. But when the fruit comes, okay, what can you do with that fruit? Don't just take it to Marikiti. Add value to it. Make it fruit juice. Make it oranges. Okay, make it look at ways in which you can extend the life of that fruit so that it becomes more valuable. Okay, vegetables. I mean, we recently went through a period where people were feeding tomatoes to their cows, which is rather sad. Okay, you can go out to some of these farms and get these tomatoes for almost free. Okay, what can you do with those tomatoes? So there are opportunities that exist, but it's a matter of looking outside the box and seeing what you can do with that opportunity to make it pay.
And maybe an advice to someone who's just there, they don't know what to do. General advice to the youth.
If you're interested in agribusiness or in agriculture, find a farmer, okay? Find a farmer and come and work with them, okay? Gain the experience. It's an internship, okay? Offer your services, because if I'm hiring, say, a farm manager, it's great that you come to me and you say, I have a diploma or have a degree, from, a well-known university, and, you have shiny papers and so on. But if you don't have the experience, I'll say, well, let me hire this person that is that has less papers, but has a world of experience. So if you gain the experience, even if you're working for free, or if you're just working for food, okay, do it for a short period. It beats sitting at home. Okay, go and work with somebody, go offer your services so that you gain the experience. After you've worked with them for 3-6 months, then you can go and venture out on your own and start your own hustle, you know, in agriculture. Or at that point, you can now start looking for employment in agribusiness. But without the experience, it becomes really, really difficult, you know, for somebody to trust you.
That's quite insightful there, Mr. Tim.
Thank you.
All right, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Mr. Tim Juguna, founder of Affordable Greenhouses Limited. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tadua.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
That's all we had prepared for you today. But tune in again next week where we get to explore more areas in the agribusiness sector. From me, Tabitha Muthoni, and the entire On the Farms of Africa team, have a lovely week.